Hello from India, and today we're going to be building a GUI sticky effect in SwiftUI. Let's get started. Alright, so in order to achieve this effect, we're going to start out with a blank project in which we're going to start using this thing called Canvas. Now, if you haven't heard of this before, it's essentially something that'll take whatever objects you put into it, such as, text or circle, rectangle, images. It'll do everything, but it'll render it as shapes. And so, in order to do this, we're going to go ahead and say Canvas, we're going to have the context, and then we need to add the size. And then from here, we're going to add another one called symbols, and it's just right outside of it. And these symbols are the actual objects that you would be using or showing, such as the circle or the rectangle. So from here, we can go ahead and say circle. We're going to set the frame of it to a width height of, let's say, 60, 60, now it's 600, 60, and then the alignment will be center. And then after this, let's add another circle. We're going to do the same thing, so this will be 60, 60, alignment, center. And so now taking these circles, let's put them inside of our canvas so it can draw those. So we could say let first circle equal context dot resolve symbol, and the ID of this will be 0. Let's get the second circle by just saying let second circle equal context dot resolve symbol, and then the ID of this will be 1. Now these IDs attach directly with each circle. So we say circle dot tag will be 0. So now this 0 is automatically referenced as this symbol here. And same with the second circle, we could say tag 1. And now we can start referencing these shapes. Now let's use them. So we say context dot draw layer. The content here is going to be, let's say, context 2 in, and we'll say context 2 dot draw image at, and this first image that we're going to draw is our first circle at, let's put it right in the middle of our screen. So we're going to go ahead and first figure out the dimensions for that. And in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and say let center width equal UI screen dot main dot bounds dot width divided by 2. So we're just taking the width of this, dividing it by 2, putting it right in the center. And then we also need to get the center height. So we'll say let center height equal UI screen dot main dot bounds dot height, and say divide by 2. So now if we go back down here, we can say init with the x and y values of center width and our center height. And then we can go ahead and do this exact same thing with our second circle. And so now we should be able to see a circle right in the center of our screen, unless it does something wrong here. Oh yes, okay, so this error comes from the fact that it's, we say resolve symbol ID 0, but it doesn't really know if it grabbed anything, so these are optional values. So you can do the correct thing and put like guard statements, but what we're going to do is just put exclamation points. Just to prove, we know there's a circle there, so there's not going to be any crashes. And there you have it. So now we drew our circles right in the center. Now the cool thing about Canvas is it takes whatever you put in there and it draws things automatically, so it makes things super simple. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make it so as we drag around, it'll take one of these circles and move it to a different position. So we're going to say at state var position will be equal to, and we're just going to make this a CG size with the width and height of 0 and 0. Then we're going to add a drag gesture, so I'm going to say dot gesture. This is going to be a drag gesture. Dot onChanged. We're going to say gesture in, and we're going to say self.position will be equal to my gesture.translation. And the translation is, if you look at how a mouse works, right? You have the width and height. It's creating like a rectangle with some certain width and height. That's exactly what it's doing just for this. So we're taking the width and height of that box that we drew and applying it to one of these circles. So how do we apply it? Well, we go to the second circle here. We're going to say dot offset x and y values. So I'm going to say my position dot width and my position dot height. And so now as we drag around, we're moving around one of these circles. Now that's cool. So let's make it so we can actually start the stretchy effect that we came here for, right? So in order to do that, it's really just these two lines of code. So we say context dot add filter, and then we say the blur with the radius, and let's make it like 15. Now our purpose here in terms of like stretchiness is taking where these two blurs meet and allowing there to be some sort of like threshold that it'll just draw it as a plain black shape. So it's taking like, oh, this area right here, it looks kind of stretchy. And that's just kind of how the stretchiness filter works. So in order to do this, right above the blur, it does matter where you put this. We say .add filter, .alpha threshold, and then we can make this 0.3. Now, what is this referencing? This 0.3 is referencing where we are going to connect things. So for instance, this right here is going to be an alpha of 0. But over here, it's going to be like an alpha of 0.345. And so we take, where do we want it to be considered still stretchy? And so I think 0.3 is probably the best one there. And so now as you start dragging out, you'll see that it still connects in some way. Let's make it 0.2 just to showcase what that would look like. It still stretches out like so. And of course, you can mess around with this radius a bit more as well to, make the blur effect larger, and therefore you get a larger radius that it'll, stretch out to. But that is the general basis of how things would be done. You can, of course, take this and run with it and make it a bit better overall, but this is how you would do things in general. Now, of course, what I'm going to do is make it so, when we stop gesturing, it'll return back to its original position. So I'm going to say .onEnded. We can say gesture in. On ended, we're going to say myself.position will be equal to .0. And then we're going to make this inside of like an animation. So we can say .animation will be .spring related to the value of myself.position. So as myself.position changes, it'll actually change the animation itself. And you get this nice effect going on. Anyway, there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more, do all the things. I'm in India, this is pretty cool. So I've just been enjoying traveling, so sorry for the lack of videos, but hope to make some more soon. I'm working on a course and doing a bunch of things in the background. So see you soon.